pasa to the pack? It is Pack here, and in today's video I want to talk about 2K and them being stubborn about adding some legends into NBA 2K. The next generation is just around the corner. We're literally a month and a half away from a brand new 2K. In this 2K that we're in currently, I was really hoping they were going to add these two players that I have been missing in 2K for so long. Reggie Miller and Charles Barkley, and for another year they didn't add either of those two players. Now they've had Charles Barkley in the USA all-time team 1 year, I think in 2K17, but besides that, and also on my team as well, but he's never been in the Phoenix Suns all-time team, which he has been belonging to. And the reason for it is that he actually gave his reasoning just lately in a little interview, and he clarifies it pretty well, and I want you to watch it first to hear it yourself.
That's a great question. I'm asked that question a lot. So they pay those guys to do it. And they make $300 million a year. And they pay the guys chump change. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I says, this is what I'll do. Because, just giving me some money doesn't help anybody. I said, give the old retired players $1 million and I'll be in the video game. They're like, well, we're going to pay you the same thing we pay others. I says, I'm not like the others. That's these other guys. I don't even know why they taking that money, because y'all make $300 million a year. Y'all not helping the old retired players. I'm talking about guys older than me too, just for the record. So they piss me off every year. They call me every year and say, hey, have you changed your mind? I says, why in the world do you think I'm going to change my mind? I said, I told you, give $1 million a year. Y'all can have the tax write-off. It don't even have to come from me. I said, but give the retired players $1 million a year. Like I say, I'm not talking about old retired players like me. See, there's this misconception that everybody's been making a gazillion dollars our whole life. There's players older than me who didn't make any money. Those two guys, and they're older, they probably need the money. So that's why I'm not in the video game, because they won't give money to the retired players. And I told them, I'm never going to change my mind. I mean, I'd be happy to do the game if they help the retired players, but they won't do it. So I told them, okay, no skin off my back.
What Charles Barkley here is saying, basically, because I actually, in my opinion, I agree with him. I know what he's saying. He says this 2K is making $300 million every single year. That's obviously a lot of money. Now, even though he says $300 million a year, they have to pay their employees, they pay other people, they have to use money to make money. So it's not exactly $300 a year in profit, but they're also not taking into account probably the VC that they're earning. So they probably make even more than $300 million a year, even though they're using it for different things. They still make a lot of money. And all Charles Barkley was saying is that, hey, they should use the money they're making and you should be giving it to the retired players. These players that aren't in the NBA anymore. So for example, let's say Michael Jordan, when he retired, 2K lost the rights to him, because you need your rights for these players to put him into the game. So now you don't deal with the NBA to get the rights to Michael Jordan anymore. You have to deal with Michael Jordan to get the rights to Michael Jordan, because he's out of the NBA. He's not owned by the NBA anymore, in a sense. So he goes to Michael Jordan, or NBA 2K goes to Michael Jordan and says, hey, we want to add you to the game. And he's like, perfect, pay me this much and I got you. Apparently what Charles Barkley is saying is that 2K says, no, we tell everybody this is how much we are willing to give you money for it to be added to the game. If you don't want to, that's fine, but we would love it if you come to the game, and it probably costs, we'll give you $500,000 or whatever. And that might be a little bit too much. They probably give them like $100,000 to be added into the game, let's say, for example. So there's two sides to this. Do they pay them $100,000 every single year to add them into the game? Or maybe it's a contract to have the rights to them for 20 years? Or maybe, I don't know how it works really. It could work really, really ways. We don't really know the details of the contracts they're going into. This is interesting for me because there's players like Charles Barkley that you would love to be in the game, and he's saying, I don't want you to pay me to be in the game. I think that you pay everyone too little to be added into the game. So let me give you another example. Old NBA players. See, let's say Michael Jordan, he's a billionaire. Does he really need $100,000 to be added to 2K? No, he doesn't. But what about a player that was playing for the Celtics in the 60s? That's on the bench of the team, and you have his rights, and he was making maybe 100 grand a year, and that's pushing it, and he probably had to work a job while being in the NBA at the time, and now he's retired and he doesn't really make a lot of money. How is it fair for that player to receive less money when he needs more money? Does that make sense? So Charles Barkley is saying it's not fair to the retired players, the older players, to be hoed when they need a lot more money because their worth is so much more than what it's being portrayed as, or what 2K is willing to give them for. So that's basically what's going on. And Charles Barkley is saying, instead of giving me money, I want you to give the retired players $1 million. So I agree with Charles Barkley if he means get $1 million and give it out to the players that need it. But if he's talking about give $1 million a piece, I don't think 2K can afford that. There is about 300 players in 2K, like 300 legends in 2K. You cannot pay each one of those players $1 million. That would be $300 million just in players' rights, which is absolutely absurd. I agree with 2K in the sense that you can't do that. But to get $1 million and spread it out to all the players, that's more realistic to me. I can see that a little bit more often. And Charles Barkley says, if you do that, you can add me into the game. Like, I'm happy that way. I'm not asking for anything else besides that. And 2K doesn't really lose money because he's saying, why don't you just write it off your taxes? Don't even see it as I'm paying these players. So view it as charity. And Charles Barkley says he'll come into the game. They won't even do it for charity, which they can write off their taxes. That's wild to me, bro. And before you think, well, it's just Charles Barkley, it doesn't really matter. Well, okay, first of all, Charles Barkley is the greatest Suns player of all time, and the all-time team makes no sense without him. Same with Reggie Miller, is the greatest Pacer of all time, and he's not on that all-time team. So it's incomplete. And then not only that, there's players that we lose rights to every single season when they retire. For example, we've lost the rights this year to Jose Calderon, who was on the all-time Raptors team, Luol Deng, who was on the all-time Bulls team. We also lose the rights to Jeremy Lin, and I know a lot of people are Jeremy Lin fans and would love to play him in the game, and they can't play as Jeremy Lin because 2K lost the right to him. This is a problem. And then there's players that we want to be added into the game, like Reggie Miller, who 2K don't have the rights to and will refuse to come to 2K, and Charles Barkley. So this creates a dilemma. Does 2K put their pride aside? Because they haven't given up. Apparently they told Charles Barkley that they ask him every single year to be added into the game. Apparently. And every year he says no, but every year they ask. So it looks like both sides are not willing to budge. And if that's the case, 2K, then why don't you just budge a little bit and try to find a middle ground at least to add Charles Barkley? That is my opinion, though. What do you guys think? Leave it in the comments below. Also, be an OG and subscribe and join the pack. See you guys next time.